Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Anti-Depressing. This is the show where we talk about everything from liturgy to Lexapro. That was better, I think.
That was better. I think we're on the
We're in
same.
sync.
I think we're on the same
We stared
page.
at each other so intensely. I think it's the
we're-
fact that you look like you're in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids for me.
I am in
Does
a
it
Bug's
look
life.
exactly
I
like
am.
that? I love it so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's
yes.
amazing. It's amazing.
Baby, how are you?
Oh,
Whoa.
gosh. What?
No, you answer first. How are you? How are you doing? You're at your last week of camp. You're rocking and rolling. You're mothering. You're wifing. You're personing.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. Like, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, honestly. I'm so excited. Our last week of camp is at the high school that I went to, little old Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. So it's at the high school I went to and the high school that I came back and taught theology at for 2 years. So it's very surreal. Like there's kids sleeping in the classrooms that I went to high school in.
Wow.
And it's just strange, but it's nice to be back. And I coordinated the service sites for this week. So it was really cool to be able to have like 130 teenagers that I was like, okay, what are organizations that I used to volunteer at or that I'm really passionate about that I can send a bunch of teens to help at. And so that was really cool. So it's been a full circle moment, but they're off. They're on their first day of work sites. It's amazing. And I got to tell the adults last night when we announced that we were doing a camp in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. For people who aren't from Wisconsin, it's not a big city by any means. And we got a lot of DMs on Instagram by haters who were like, how are you doing a service project in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin and not going to Milwaukee or inner city Chicago? And so this has been a really cool moment for me to explain that like you can do service anywhere and there are always going to be people in need in any community. Oof. And so I was telling the people who came to camp last night, I was like, this is such a cool opportunity for you to tell your teens that it's not just like, oh, well, I can't do anything because I don't live in like an inner city where there's like a lot of poverty or a lot of like people struggling with homelessness. But like actually there's people that need help everywhere. And if you just like open your eyes and look around, like there's always something to do. And so it's been really cool. So to those of you who said we shouldn't be doing camp here, much love. I hope you find places to serve no matter what kind of community you live in.
Tough pill alert. Tough pill alert. You can do service wherever you are.
Who would have known? There's always people who need help. Honestly, that's crazy.
Crazy. Nobody's struggling in Deltona, but everybody's struggling in Orlando. These people in Deltona need no help.
They all gather. All the people that need help actually live in one
to the bigger
specific area. Yeah, 100%. Because, they have like access to resources to move.
Oh, for sure. Dude, well, I'm so glad that it's like going well.
That was my sassy comment of the day.
No, I get it.
Chanel, how are you? I would love to hear.
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm just living my best Bug's life. I am over here in the grass. I'm just relaxing. Yeah. I'm just relaxing, just like working a lot, working a lot, hanging out with my mom. My cousins are in town. So they're actually, I don't know what you call them, but like my actual cousins are like in their late 40s. So these cousins are their kids. So I don't know what you call them, but they're actually my age.
Second cousins.
Got it. So they're actually my age. And so they have kids. And so they brought their babies over who are like 6 months old.
Oh my gosh, so
cute. The way that these babies fell asleep on me twice, and I just feel so honored.
You're a baby whisperer.
Girl, when babies choose you, and I did the Jasmine Steven trick, so I like held them and I pat their butts, and it's like knockout gas, dude.
Gets them every time.
Dude, like it's the bouncing and the patting on the butt. They just can't even take it. They're all of a sudden they're squirming, and then they're like, well, I guess I'm tired. So,
that's so cute.
So just hanging out with these babies. My cousins are coming over tonight, which will be nice, and just like working. Ate earlier, got a little kids burger from this place, even though it said it was just for people 12 and under, but I ordered to go, so nobody knows.
If you ordered to go, they don't know. You could have a 12-year-old in the car.
Yeah, me and God and everyone listening. So, but yeah, just kind of chilling and just like really excited to come to Wisconsin next week and hang out and just be like horizontal. And just like squeeze some babies and just like chill out.
It's gonna be the best.
Yeah, work has just been a lot. Outside of this work, which is always fun,
The best.
My other jobs are also fun, but also work. So I am excited to be off of most things. So
I know. I can't wait for you. I'm so excited for you to just be able to chill. I'm excited for me to be able to chill with you. It's going to be
I'm excited
all good
for
things
you.
For us.
Oh man, Jasmine on chill mode. I cannot wait. Jasmine on chill mode means like we're making some sort of mixed drink. We're sitting.
We're on our
phones. Yeah, we're on our phones. We're like sitting outside. We're sitting inside.
We're staring at a wall. We're thriving.
I mean, and that's like one of our stories. We're rotting in bed. I mean, you have kids, so you actually have to like get up.
Yeah, we can't rot. Yeah. I honestly am excited for that story because I'm like, how much would we do that if I didn't have our kids to like launch us back to reality? You know,
that part. You and Steven are pretty motivated, so I don't know. I don't know. But your kids do launch you of like quite a bit. I know Steven's like, well, the alternative is what? Like, is Joy going to feed herself?
Oh, the option they're at a splash pad
right now. Would she feed herself like paper clips? Yeah. So who knows?
Her favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, also, this is going to bother me. They're not your second cousins. First cousins, you and your cousins, if they have kids, it's your first cousin once removed. So then your first cousin's kids, first cousins twice removed.
Whoa.
Weird, right? But then if you and your first cousins both have kids, so those people that are your age, if you have kids, they will be your kids' second cousins.
Whoa.
Does that make sense?
That's crazy.
My mom's passionate about this, so she used to like draw us diagrams. We have so many people in our family, and so like,
I honestly.
So now I'm like, oh my gosh, if she listens to this and hears that I said second cousins, she's gonna draw another diagram and be like, Jasmine, you don't remember? So I have to.
So
I had
funny.
To clear that.
No, thank you, because actually, I just call everyone everyone that is my age is my cousin.
Better. Cousins, yeah.
And then everyone that's like older than me, I'm like, it's my aunt and uncle. You're my cousin. It's like
I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's like I don't really know. We have so many family members, and I'm like, it's too hard to keep up. And these babies, I'm like, I'm your cousin. I don't know. Even though like they call each other their cousins, I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, thank you for the clarification bit.
You're welcome.
But I'm glad that you're doing well, dude.
Lesson.
I know. No, nothing like some school on a Wednesday afternoon. So, but yeah, dude. But I'm glad that you're doing well. You are missed down here. I miss Florida. You so much. It is 300 degrees, so I'm glad you're not. I'm glad Wisconsin weather, I heard in the summer, is so nice. So
I know. I can't wait for you to cool off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you get to be in that. Today I went outside for 10 minutes and I was like, absolutely not. So
that's too long, Chanel.
Cooper left. Yeah, I was feeding my dog some sweet potatoes, and now that I'm not feeding him anymore, he's like, I'm out of here. So, But yeah, dude, are you ready to launch into some stories? I'm ready to hear.
I'm ready.
Opinion.
Should we dance a little?
I think we should. And for everyone listening, we're making this work for you because we love
this is for you. The
people. But we are also not quite able to hear some of the things that we normally do. So we're going to ask Will to drop a little Flynn track, and we're just going to dance to that just for like a couple seconds as we
Are you picking one right now?
I am. Yeah. So let's
pick a sad one.
Let's just pick a sad one and let's just drop that. We'll just replace it if it is horrible. And for those listening, Will is also like our awesome friend and producer and editor and everything good. So, all right, here we go.
I can't wait.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm scared.
I fast forwarded to a random part of the song, so here we go.
Oh. What is happening again?
I'm sick of the games. I wanna be more than friends. I'm tired of overthinking.
Yay! I don't know what part of the song that was. So
that was the most random clip of a song. Megan is literally gonna be like, you guys kind of just like picked apart in advance.
We thought this
I loved it. We are sick of the games, though.
Yeah, we are sick of the games, and you know, I like you, Jasmine. So,
I like you too.
Wonderful. So let's launch into our first story. We're back on our regular grind. Last week we had awesome guests. We will probably have awesome guests in the future, but we're back. Me, Jasmine, stories, drama.
It's happening, you guys.
First story, we're talking about one of Jasmine's favorite topics, therapy speak. Yes, Jasmine went to school for all of these mental health things. So I always consult her whenever I feel like gosh, am I overtherapizing certain scenarios? And sometimes the answer is absolutely yes. So in this story, Jonah Hill, who's made famous from Superbad, amongst other things, his ex-girlfriend released some text messages that he sent her that allegedly. And
true. You can edit anything these days.
Got it. So yeah, right. So ex-girlfriend Sarah Brady posted some text messages on Instagram that he sent her, and they're pretty scary. So it's so in these text messages, he says, "I've made my boundaries clear. It's not my place to teach you." And they're followed by pictures of her. Information important. She is a world famous surfer. Okay. So a big part of her job is being in bathing suits and surfing because that's her job. Okay. So one would think. So he texts her and says, "I made my boundaries clear. It's not my place to teach you," with pictures of her in her swimsuit doing her job, surfing. And asked her to remove some of them from her Instagram. And he says that I'm setting a healthy boundary, or I'm setting a boundary with you. And my boundaries dictate that if you need to post these pictures in order to get attention from men, that this is not the kind of relationship. I'm not the partner for you. So throughout these texts, Jonah uses a lot of therapy speak, right? He threw around terms like boundaries, self-care, toxic, and, just really utilize those words to communicate with Sarah for things that he felt uncomfortable with. And my thought is, as I was reading these texts, I mean, it's giving scary. It's giving controlling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And manipulative. So my thought from me, I mean, I have thoughts, but I'm wondering from you, Jasmine, like when people use therapy speak, one, what is that? And two, when people use those things to communicate, how do we walk the line of communicating our boundaries and just straight up being manipulative?
This is so interesting. I have so many thoughts on this, and let me put a pin in, remind me to come back to it. The whole, like, are we allowed to have opinions about what our partner posts on social media? Let me put a pin in that. Let's circle back to that after this. I feel like one of the most problematic things that's happening right now is the pendulum always swings, right? So like we really wanted to normalize talking about mental health. And so now we normalize it so much that everybody's kind of like self-diagnosing and talking like they have a counseling degree without doing any of the work of like getting a counseling degree. And a lot of like therapists that I talk to will complain about like TikTok therapists, and like people who are like, oh, if you have this, if you whatever, then you probably have ADHD or you probably have anxiety or you probably have like some very specific diagnosis. And people are running with that and being like, that's probably me. And then they're like talking about how they have it, which is really detrimental to the people who do have those mental illnesses because they are like access to advocating for themselves and advocating for themselves in a way that's like, oh no, this is like a legitimate thing that cripples my life and not like a cute thing that you diagnosed yourself with. Like this is a real thing that affects my everyday life. I think it can be really problematic because like those people now are not necessarily getting like the respect and care that they need because now everybody has these things, right? And so that's problematic in and of itself. But then also like throwing around therapy speak, just immediately the other person has to be wrong. Like there's no way there's no way that then his girlfriend at the time could be like, actually, I feel like I am okay to do this. Like you're not engaging in a conversation. You're telling them, I am correct. This is my boundary. So if you cross it, you are wrong. And maybe that is wrong for you, but it doesn't mean their actions are inherently wrong. But it makes them seem like they're in the wrong. You know what I mean?
That part, yes. And I pulled up some of his texts and he says, I mean, one of the most, he says, plain and simple, If you need surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post sexual pictures, okay? These are just pictures of her surfing. Friendships with women who are in unstable places and from your wild recent past, beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful. I am not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it, and there will be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for a romantic partnership. My boundaries with you based on the way these actions have hurt our trust. That like the way that is so manipulative, dude. And if someone said to me like, okay, you have friendships with women who are in unstable places from your wild recent past, but if that's something that you want to do,
if that's good for you,
if that brings you happiness, then I'm cool with it.
That's the part
I'm just not someone for you. It's like, oh my gosh, you're right. Let me find someone that's horrible that will let me do those things. And it's just like, it's crazy. And it's exactly like what you were saying. When you communicate in that way, it's like, you're not really giving me a choice. You're kind of saying, hey, I'm observing that this is like objectively wrong, whatever you're doing. And there is no conversation. Yeah, it is like, if you choose to do this, you're choosing.
It's fine, but it's wrong.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's like objectively wrong. And I'm right. But like, these are just my boundaries. It's like, what the heck? So how do you communicate boundaries then, like with someone? I mean, and
you're the queen of boundaries.
And it's crazy because like thank you. And it's crazy because like thinking through these, I'm like, I'm stepping back on times that I've communicated boundaries, and I'm like, have I ever made it sound like to someone that something that they're doing is objectively wrong?
Is wrong.
Yeah. When maybe it's not, and I should have had a conversation about it. Did I ever use therapy speak in a way that was like manipulative? So how, what would you say to someone? What would you say to Jonah Hill if you were like, hey, you should rephrase this?
I think the hard thing about this specific situation, which will circle back to like the relationships in general, is like a lot of people in their relationships have boundaries over like what can get posted and what should not, like especially once you're like married, it's like, hey, I don't really want everybody to see you like in a bikini. And some people would be like, oh, how you can't control people. But unless you're in a married relationship, like it's hard to have an opinion about that, and we don't also have access to everybody's life like that. So whatever boundaries they set up in their own relationship is like fine and legit. And so the hard thing is like, I don't know their relationship, and I don't know what he means by a dark past. Like, has she posted pictures with people, but then is also like partying with them, maybe like doing other stuff with them, and it like is a slippery slope, and he knows that, and we as like the viewers of this do not. Like, we don't know anything about this truly, and so it's hard to be like, everything he said was wrong, because it could be coming from like a deeper place of them like working through things in the past, having kind of an agreement about what this looks like, and then it feeling like she's going in a different direction, right? So like there could be nuances of that we don't have details about. However, I think the big thing that I would say is like, hey, first of all, if you're going to communicate boundaries, how about we maybe do it in person and not like through a text message where we're also like sending pictures and it's feeling more like an attack, because it feels kind of like an attack. And if that is your boundary and she's known that boundary the whole time, then like she crossed the boundary and that's kind of it. You have to have like a consequence for that. And if that consequence is like, I can't be with you, then you don't have to go this hard in these text messages, because presumably they already had the conversation about boundaries, hopefully earlier on in their relationship, because he said, we've had an issue with this in the past. So I would assume they've had this boundary conversation in the past. If this is the first time they're having it, this is not how your first boundary conversation should be having, like over a text message when you're like kind of putting them on blast. But if this is like okay, we established boundaries in our relationship that these certain pictures weren't going to get posted. Like boundaries also have to surround consent in a relationship. And so like if you're saying, hey, for me in our relationship, I really don't think I can handle you posting pictures in a swimsuit and like a bunch of guys commenting, because I will feel like insecure or whatever. First of all, work through that stuff on your own. But if that's something that she then is like, hey, that's really fair. It's okay. I can post only these specific ones that are like sponsored posts and I won't do any extras. Or she could in that moment be like, that is not going to work for my career.
Yeah, that's my
so if
job.
that's something you can't handle, then I just don't think this is going to work. And then that can be a really mature conversation that can be over. But presumably they've had a conversation where they've established boundaries and now she's crossing it is kind of what he makes it seem like, which then in the initial boundary conversation, there should have been a conversation of if the boundary gets crossed, I won't be able to be in a relationship with you. So then the boundary gets crossed. You can sit down and be like, hey, like we discussed, whatever, I can't be in a relationship with you. You don't have to now come at her with the, you can do whatever you want for you, blah, blah, blah stuff. Because it's like, it wasn't really a her problem. It was a you having a problem with the situation. So then just be done. Then that's it. Move on.
And that's the thing that makes me, man, and I feel like this could be a whole episode, but like I'm thinking
it probably
about,
will be again. This isn't the last.
And I'm thinking about like, I went to this group, this women's group for like people pleasers and women that are in therapy. Wouldn't surprise. And the first session or the second session was about surviving narcissist. And so the specialist that came, the therapist, talked all about how some therapists don't even, and allegedly, I don't know if Jonah Hill's a narcissist, but for this example, she said that
he's giving narcissist in his text
it's giving narcissism. And if you're like, oh, Chanel, you're just like using narcissism and everyone's using narcissism, you're literally using therapy speak
as we
talk, you know, sure.
Am I diagnosing him and saying what he's doing is a problem? Maybe.
Yeah, but I actually know what it means. But it's a person who like loves themselves excessively and thrives off of the affirmation of other people to a toxic level, which is also therapy speak. Anyway, at that meeting, she was talking about how some therapists won't even take narcissists as clients because there is no degree that they will actually change their behavior, but they could weaponize they could weaponize what they're learning to actually inflict more pain on their partner or whoever.
Exactly.
And I'm like, and that was kind of what this is giving me. Like you're weaponizing what you're learning for your partner. And it's using words like, you know, I've had people in my life that I've shared things with them to say like, hey, I really think these are certain boundaries that I have and I'm willing to kind of be flexible on some of these. And I'd like to talk with you to make sure we're both in a healthy space, whatever. Then 2 months later, they're like, oh, these are my boundaries. And it's something insane, like something super unhealthy. Like, these are my boundaries that I'm going to call you every 2 minutes. And if you don't answer, I'm going to say you're a horrible friend. And it's like, what? That's not a boundary. That's like, what are you even?
That's a dictation.
It's a dictate. But then you're like, you're manipulating me to make it seem like we're both on the same like healthy mental health page. But you're just kind of using what I was using. It's the same way when people like weaponize religion, right? They all these things to kind of make it seem like now you're trying to make me seem like, and so it was just giving very narcissist to me. And I am not a psychiatrist, so you know, whatever.
But I do too. Like
crazy.
So many people use boundaries as like an excuse in their relationships too. You know, which is another thing we could deep dive into. I'm sure we will. But this idea that like, oh no, like, I'm so sorry, like I can't do that for you because like I'm establishing a boundary for you. But then you're just like not doing something that's like nice for somebody, you know? Like if somebody's like, hey, like I don't know, like gone are the days that anybody, except for us, because we're best friends, that anybody will just like pick somebody up from the airport or like, oh, go run and get them food if they're sick or whatever. And you're like, well, I have a busy schedule, so I need to like establish a boundary that I'm not just going to like bend over backwards for you whenever you need anything. And I've seen a lot of people like that. And it's like, actually, that's just like being a friend that's there when somebody needs you. And so like, that's okay still. Like you can still be a good friend in a dire situation. Now, if your friend every day is like, I fly into the airport every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. and you're like, you have enough money to pay for an Uber. Can you please like do that one of the days, or honestly, both of the days? You know, like there's a level of like taking advantage of your friends, but there are some things where it's like, it's not really a boundary. That's just, you don't want to do something. And so you're going to say that it's like a boundary to protect your mental health, because that's easier than being like, hey, I don't feel like it, which like, it's okay to tell people sometimes.
It's okay to say,
I don't feel like it.
I don't feel like it. Actually,
I don't feel like it. Or I'm really
like
tired,
that.
so I can't. But like you not wanting to do something doesn't have to mean that the thing is outside of the scope of your boundaries. Like it's just something you don't want to do. And that's fine.
And
just
it's
don't
interesting because it's like a boundary doesn't have to necessarily be a reaction to an action of excessive behaviors, like repetitive behaviors. Like someone doesn't have to like say mean things to you 10 times for you to then create a boundary. You can create a boundary in the first place.
Yeah. Like
but
have
at the
personal
same time,
boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is good to say, it is okay to say, and for everyone listening, if you feel like it's not, it is okay to say, I just don't want to on the front end.
It's fine.
You know, and you don't have to, because sometimes creating boundaries seems like this big to do. Like, it's this big to do. I have to like talk to my therapist about it. I have to journal them. I have to like do all these things. And it's like, no, actually, I just like kind of don't want to. And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's fine.
You know?
And saying, I just don't want to, or I'm really not going to be able to do that, also makes the person that's asking not feel like crap. Because if the person who's asking is like, hey, would you mind? And you're like, you know what? Like, I'm really trying to establish healthy boundaries with my friends and I don't feel like doing it. Then like, they're going to feel like crap for asking you, because they're like, wow, is this like outside of what I can ask somebody? And it might not be. It just might not be something you want to do. So we don't have to go that hard with the therapy speak when we're just saying no to like getting ice cream on a Friday after 8 p.m. and you've decided
when
for
you're
yourself,
like, nah, I'm just
you don't want to
tired.
go out after 8 p.m. But like, you don't have to tell them I establish a boundary. Whatever. Just say, oh, I'm tired. Like, I don't need to do that. It doesn't have to be a big thing that makes them feel crazy for even asking. Like, and that's sometimes when we throw out boundaries willy-nilly, it makes people feel just bad, you know?
That's balance and nuance, y'all. And it's like, that's real balance. And I honestly wish that we could have a whole episode just about social media, and like, because also the way that he is just using her job as this like flippant thing of like, oh, if you need to post like bathing suit pictures, well then if that works for you, it's like, what, you think I'm just like casually posting bathing
just
suit?
doing
I'm
this
doing
for fun.
This is like my job. Yeah. So it's just
you need to chill.
Snooze. Yeah. Men like that, snooze. So
we're over it.
Over it. So
okay, we're going to circle back, table this as a whole episode for
I'm going to table this. Yeah, story number 2.
Come back.
Because I'm like, man, I wish. Okay, so this new trend called bed rotting is causing concern. Yeah, honestly, retweet. Is causing concern amongst people because, you know, news is reporting on it and they're like, oh, you know, young people, millennials, they're doing this phrase on TikTok or trend on TikTok and social media, you know, that's it describes staying in bed all day by choice, thereby rotting. And so it's called bed rotting. And so now they're saying, like, you know, news stations are saying, oh, millennials aren't taking care of their mental health. Your sleep hygiene could be at risk. You need to move and do activities. You're at risk for heart disease. All true things. But also the big question is, are we all just burnt out? Because
are we just a little tired?
Have I bed rot sometimes? If that's what we're calling it, have I bed rot? Yes.
You know what's fascinating? Yeah, I don't think they're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not on the talk, so let me know. But like, we're not like bed rotting for a week, right?
No, I mean,
like this is a
because
day?
People will post
some
like
people bed rotting.
People will post like like I'm bed rotting like for 2 days or a day because they're like, man, I'm just need to like stay in bed today because I'm recharging, and so. And I think that, you know, it's being misperceived as like, oh, millennials are staying in bed for weeks at a time. People, even on social media. Yeah, even on social media, people will be like, ooh, girl, I think you're depressed. Ooh, you know, ooh, I think you should see a therapist. Like, ooh, it's been too long. You know, like get up and do one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but it's like, I think what they're saying is like, no, we're actually just the result of us being tired and burnt out, excessively working and like responding to demands of life, like people are feeling like they need to do things like bed rot because they're like, I don't know if there's other options besides laying in my bed for like 2 days at a time.
I feel like this. I feel like every generation has had their version of bed rot. Like for generations above us, maybe it was like, hey, we are working so hard and ignoring our mental health, so now we're getting sick, like actual sick, because our body is forcing us to rest. And so now I'm laying in bed for a whole day. Or like when you take a sick day and you lay in bed for a whole day. Like everybody has done that. And this isn't like a far cry from when it started becoming a thing to like offer mental health days to people, that they could actually just like take a day off and have it count as a sick day. And it was like their mental health day where they just got to kind of recharge. Like the main thing is like, okay, yeah, having a day where you just lay in bed sounds awesome. And sometimes you just need that to just be away from everybody and get to recharge. I think to a certain degree, depending on what you're doing with that time, you will either come back rejuvenated or more exhausted, or like equal exhausted, because like if you spend the whole day just like scrolling TikTok or scrolling Instagram reels, then you're probably not going to come back more rejuvenated. You're probably going to come back like a little fatigued, maybe a little depressed, and then a sprinkle of like, I saw a funny video in there. But you're going to be still hit with like contact with the world, you know? So I think if you're going to bed rot, let's also like rejuvenate our body a little in a way that like I'm resting and actually like resting. Like maybe you actually close your eyes, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm scrolling for a little bit. Maybe I'm watching a show or a movie that's like a feel-good movie that kind of gets me in a headspace. Maybe I'm eating a little ice cream. Maybe at some point I like get up, do some stretches, and then I lay back in bed. You know, like maybe I'm doing that. But like
let's diversify this rot.
Yes, diversify the rot. But I think there's so much value in rest. But I think in a lot of ways, your rest can serve you and serve your body, or your rest can contribute to your stress and contribute to your exhaustion. And so you just kind of need to choose what that rest looks like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And I think for everyone that is, you know, freaking out about bed rot, everyone that's older, you know, that boomer generation that is consistently concerned about what
they're worried about us.
Gen Z and millennials cannot do. We're just tired, you know, and for the bed rot that's like you staying in bed for days at a time, weeks at a time, baby, I think you need to like seek some professional help, because it sounds like you just are tired and you just need to restructure your schedule. But sometimes, you know, you're just kind of burnt out. And I'm curious, like for me, you know, I learned like what good self-care was for Chanel and what bad self-care is, which is not even self-care. It's just like treating myself not well. And so for me, like like you were saying, I'll try at least, if I'm planning on bed rotting for a day, I will also be like, I gotta stand outside for a couple minutes at a time to like feel some air.
Get a little vitamin D.
And I also gotta like, you know, make sure I do one thing that my therapist will always say, like, if you feel like you're just so burned out that you just need to lay down all day, do one thing in your day that gives you a sense of accomplishment. And that doesn't have to be like responding to all your emails. It can be like, did you brush your teeth? Did you take a shower? Did you finally shave your armpits? Like one thing in the day that is like, I did this today. And if that means you do that and then you lay right back down, then okay. Because sometimes you're just kind of tired. Yeah.
Yes. I always think about self-care as I'm like, okay, what are the things that when I notice this, I know I'm like spiraling and I'm not taking care of myself? Like, is it like shaving my legs? Is it like, dang, I haven't washed my hair in a while? Is it like, you know, like doing an exfoliating scrub on my face? Like, what is the thing that I'm like, oh man, I know I'm like really letting myself go right now. And I'm so bogged down by like life that I'm not taking care of myself. Like, what are those things? And can I get a break where I can do some of those things where like I will feel like I have it together enough to accomplish the tasks that are overwhelming me? Like, what are the things I'm pushing off of like actually like caring for my body, my mind, my soul, whatever it is that I'm not doing? Like for a lot of us, it's like, oh, really haven't prayed. You know, like what are the things that you know you're not like caring for yourself that you can like incorporate back and kind of set the tone right before you accomplish all the things that are overwhelming you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, for those too that like to do a little bit of rot, you know, you can do spiritual things in your bed too. Like you can listen to Hallow. You can listen to some chant.
Watch a little Chosen episode.
You know, if you're going to rot, it doesn't have to be this like completely obtuse, like you're just not doing anything productive. You can like still do a little something to spice up your spiritual life. So
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. But you know,
it's more like rotting. I feel like it's more of like a recenter than a rot, you know?
That part.
Like let's rebrand rot. Let's like I'm trying to recenter. Like it could take me all day laying in my bed, getting right with myself, getting right with the Lord so that I can recenter to like accomplish my life, you know?
Rebrand the rot. Yeah.
Rebrand the rot. It's a recenter. And it sounds really good, right? Like I'm laying in my bed. I'm centering myself. Have some respect.
Like I'm going to say that to you 2 weeks from now and you're going to be like, okay.
I'm going to be like, Chanel. You literally are not. And then I'll look at the hours you were on TikTok and be like, you are not.
Yeah, and you'll be like, Chanel, you actually just need to respond to your emails. But yeah, no, we're going to rebrand the rot. If you are bed rotting, you know, address with yourself if you're actually just burnt out. And if you are burnt out or you're exhausted, that's okay. But, you know, what can you do to take care of yourself? And that is the moral of the story.
That's the moral.
So for our last story of today.
I can't wait.
Father Marcos Garcias competed on MasterChef Spain. And he is, you know, like a priest that's on MasterChef, huge show. And he's talking all about how God is in the pots and the pans. God is in the dirty work. God is in the simplicity of food. And he's just evangelizing to these people where Spain is a very secular, anti-Catholic society. And so having a priest on a public facing show was met with a lot of like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And so in an interview with The Pillar, Father talks all about how his experience on MasterChef was actually eye-opening for him because he got to encounter a lot of people just through their teamwork, working with food, meeting them where they are. And people also got to encounter him just as a person, which was healing for them and for him. And so I am just, you know, curious, have you ever felt closer to God through a really good meal? And what was it? And then, and that's my first question. Like, have you ever felt closer to God through a really good meal? I will just go ahead and jump in first.
I think you should. I know this is what you've been dying to say.
Of recent, a really good meal I felt closer to God was your salmon bowls.
Jasmine, gosh, yeah, those are legendary.
Are so good. They're like okay, so she makes like rice and salmon, which I don't know how you season it, but she seasons some salmon. And then she like makes like a special sriracha mayonnaise and then edamame and then sesame seeds and then it's friggin' and carrots. It's friggin' nuts. And the way that our family, like I'm saying our family.
No, it's ours.
Steven, me, the kids, like we
Juliana. There's
like
our
Juliana,
family.
that we all ate in silence because it was so good.
Silent.
And like it was, and I literally felt God in that bowl. It was so good. And just the simplicity of like, I mean, you're like making some fish and she had, you know, everything else out in like its little bowls and we all just kind of made our own bowls like Chipotle. And it was so nice. Like it was so chill. It wasn't like extravagant. It wasn't like this big to do of something that had to bake for like 2 hours or something random. And so it was just like so good. And and then it was so nice because after we all ate, we all just like, we spent the next 20 minutes talking to each other about how good it was. And then like planning in our minds about the next time we were going to ask you to make it.
Yeah.
So it was so good. So that was mine. So
yes. I honestly relate so much. Mine was going to be something you cook. I love this for us. I feel like it is a spiritual experience whenever you make your jambalaya and cornbread.
Aww.
It is spiritual because it takes so long. It's such a labor of love, and you start it so early. And the thing I love about when Chanel cooks is she's not afraid to like incorporate people into the kitchen. So you'll always be like, oh, do you want to like chop up the sausage or the chicken or the veggies? And so it's like a communal thing. And we kind of do it all day, like really casually. And it's so nice. And I think that is it for me. Like the meals that just bring people together when you're surrounded by people that you love and like you know all the hard work that went into it and you just get to be together. Like I think there's so much power in like breaking bread together essentially and just that communal aspect. And I love it so much. And growing up in a family that like had Italian leanings, and my dad being like, it is so important for us all to sit down at the dinner table and spend time together and kind of talk about our days. And you're big on like that. How was everybody's day? What was the best part? What was the worst part? And we kind of like process through everything while we eat. And I just love that. Like, I think it's hard to not see God in like mealtime when you're all sitting together amidst like the chaos of your life and you finally just all sit down. And I know that's like in a lot of areas, like a dying trend. And now younger families are trying to bring it back, like the all sitting together and spending time together, because I do think there's so much value in that. And so I think definitely like seeing God through food and through the fellowship that comes with food is like so easy to me.
That part. Yeah, that part. And thank you so much. I love cooking for Jasmine's family because it's so fun, because it's like kids are like losing their minds around you and they're just like
and you're just chopping chicken.
They're being nuts, like running, falling, like putting stuff in their mouths, and you're like, what is going on? And you're trying to chop some chicken thighs, and then like you're making food, and then you're making sure it doesn't burn, and then they're taking a nap, and then they're waking up, and it's just so fun. And like Jasmine and Steven, their family is just so fun because it feels like, and then it feels like things like move around dinner, like around meals in your family, you know, and everyone just is excited to eat. And then like you guys, and which is fine if you do, you know, but like y'all don't play the TV or like play, you know, other things. You really just talk to each other. And, you know, for me growing up, we were very much like, we sat together on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And even then we would play like kind of loud music in the back or watch TV, and it wouldn't really be like a talking activity. But it's just so fun to see your kids like share, and they're four, and so it's like they really, Noelle and Joy really don't like, I don't know, they don't have a lot going on because they're existing in your house, but it's just so fun to hear what they have to share throughout a meal. And it, like you said, it's like a breaking of bread. It's like an encounter. It's a Eucharistic experience to be like, man, okay, we're sitting together at our table and we're glorifying God through this great conversation of like, today you played with horses and, you know, Joy ate your snack and that was kind of frustrating, and and it's awesome. And it's like, okay, sounds good. Or like, you know, today you like Joy conquered the potty today. Like that rocks. And if that is like the most thumbs up thing that happened today, then that's cool. And we can do that together as a family. Yeah. So it's just so fun. And yeah. And so I love that. And I think it's awesome how Father went on a show, because so many people are united through food. And I think it's awesome to go on a show that's centered around that, and to really just not go in and say, you know, like, hey, everyone like needs to radically convert, but just like, hey, I'm doing me. I'm a priest. I'm going to go bless all of these little spaces with holy water. And like, y'all are welcome to come along for this ride. And I'm just going to do me, and I'm going to cook like very well, you know?
That's awesome.
And I'm excited to meet y'all here. So look at that. Look at God. I feel God in this Chili's and in this conversation. So
felt him in that jambalaya, felt him in the salmon bowl.
Felt him in that salmon bowl, dude. He's all around. So, dude, do you have, as we close out this episode, do you have any honorable mentions of anything that has happened this week that you've seen that you'd like to mention or talk about?
Let me think. No, honestly, speaking of like the food stuff, we've had a really cool thing happening because we're in the town I grew up in, where lots of people are like donating food to camp or making food for camp, which we've really never had happen, like maybe once or twice throughout my like 10 years with Alive in You. But people are like popping off with the making food. And last night, you would have came out of your body.
What was it?
Restaurant near us, Sunset, that I think you've been to. You have been to. That's the place where they make those really tall drinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only
the story for another day. Yeah.
They made chicken Alfredo for 140 people in garlic bread. And it was so good. And it's the way that like I called her and was like, hey, would you give us like a discount on food? And she was like, I'll make it all. And I'll just donate it. Like the owner of the restaurant came in, made all of it, donated the whole thing. And it's like that I have been overwhelmed by the generosity this week. And tonight there's a youth minister that used to come to Alive in You who's making dinner for everybody. Tomorrow night, people donated the burgers and the brats. Friday night, my parents are making dinner. It's like just so cool to see so many people in the community rallying around something that I've been doing for so long. And so it's just a really cool like belief in the ministry, and to see that many people supporting a Catholic organization has just been so cool. I've loved it.
Wow, that's so awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear that. And what a cool witness of like radical generosity. So in so simple amazing things like making a meal, which is super chill. So
absolutely.
That's awesome, dude.
I love it.
Well, I don't think I have any honorable mentions besides some really awesome TikToks that I've been watching, which I might just, if I get permission from our social media manager, I might just like post some on my stories. They're pretty appropriate. So I think that
they're appropriate, I think show the people what you've been doing.
I think that they'd be good. Yeah. I'm going to run them past our manager first and just kind of check the vibe. But I do think, that they're pretty funny. So those are my honorable mentions. I love that for us. Pero, I hope that everyone has an awesome day. Thank you for
the best week.
Yeah, just the best week. Yeah, it's almost Friday. Oh, it's almost
when this comes out, it will be Friday.
It will be
Happy
Friday. It's almost Saturday. We're doing it, y'all. We're grinding. We're bed rotting until the weekend. So
we're rotting until we drop.
Yeah, there it is. I hope that everyone has a great day. Thank you for listening to us.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, close us out, Mama.
The world is depressing, but we are not.
We are not.
Smash that like button.
Subscribe.
Okay.